And welcome everyone to the first info session for the fourth round of the Generator Fund. The Generator Fund is the 34th regional regranting program to be sponsored by the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Arts for projects that propose new directions for the creation and presentation of visual art. The fund is administered by the Buffalo Institute for Contemporary Art. My name is Nando Alvarez Perez. I stutter. Bear with me. I am the co-director of programs and publications at BICA. And today you will also hear from Emily Reynolds, our co-director of strategy and engagement, and from Wavy, BICA's gallery assistant and coordinator on the Generator Fund. Wavy will lead the session, and we'll all be answering stuff at the end, but Emily knows best oftentimes, so she'll probably be answering the most. And as questions come up, feel free to drop them in the chat. Our goals for the fund are to support artists and independent curators whose work often falls outside the scope of typical funding sources, and to act as a seed fund to support the creation of new platforms for contemporary art in our region. And with that, I will hand it off to Wavy.
How to mute. Hello, so right into it. So the Generator Fund has two different types of grants. We have the kinetic grant and the potential grant. We're going to talk about kinetic grants first. So kinetic grants are awards up to $5,000 to fund an artist production for a new project with a publicly accessible component. This can be anything. It can be an exhibition, performance art, film screenings, books, as long as it has a publicly accessible component that is free and accessible to all. But kinetics can be for your own personal projects. Thank you. This is a kinetic grantee from 2023. Group work presented field service, which was an environment-based project. And the next kinetic grantee that we have an example of is Misael Hernandez. I believe this was an MFA project, which are allowed, but it's under the discretion of jurors what they want to fund. And yeah, we've had a lot of really great kinetic projects. Some of the ones from this year include Museum of Cold, which is hosting a whole bunch of exhibitions. No, that was a potential one. Lucas Cook. We've got some great kinetic grants this year. On to potential grants, which are going to be grants that are potential grants are for if you have a project that is more community-based. So if you're doing a solo exhibition, kinetics are great for you. If you want to start a residency or open up an exhibition space, anything that you have to bring other artists in to complete your project, this is going to be more geared towards potential. So potential grants are awards up to $10,000, intended to act as a seed fund for longer-term projects that foster experimentation, collaboration, and community. So ideally with a potential grant, it's like a Kickstarter. It's a lump sum of money to get your project off the ground. We hope that after funding is complete, that you have a way to continue this project on in the future and that it doesn't just stop when the grant cycle stops. Some examples of potential grants include Libby Projects and Editions from 2023 and 2025. So yeah, you cannot get a potential grant 2 years in a row. You can get a potential in kinetic though. But that was a great potential grant because they're constantly working with the community and offering all types of public workshops, and it's very community based. Another good potential grantee project is from this year, Major Glitch, which is H in Quincy. They have done one exhibition so far, I believe, Control and Print, and they have two other ones scheduled. Great potential project. They are showing a bunch of artists that I've never heard of before, so really collaboration is key for potential grants. And across both grants, they must be rooted in visual arts. So this fund is not meant to support music-driven projects, fashion-driven projects. Your core element has to be visual arts. If it has some of these other elements in it, that's okay. But if the basis needs to be visual arts. And innovation is also a big thing that comes from Andy Warhol Foundation. They don't necessarily want to see something that's been done before. So whether that's seeing your work in a new context, experimenting and taking risks, trying something new with your practice, all of these things are extremely encouraged. More so than, funding an exhibition in a gallery that already does a bunch of shows and you're just kind of fitting into that mold. We want to see things that break outside of that. So eligibility is pretty cut and dry. You must live and work in Erie or Niagara County, and your public component must take place in Erie or Niagara County. You're not eligible if you're applying as a 501c3, if you're receiving a solo exhibition honorarium from BICA in the same year, or if you're a BICA employee. And if you received a potential grant last round, you cannot apply for another potential grant this cycle, but you can apply for a kinetic. If you received a kinetic grant last round, you can apply for a kinetic grant again as well. So for our jury, we have 4 jurors this year. We have past grantee H. Boone, who is a grantee from last year. I have my notes. I'll just talk a little bit about them. They're a great artist. They work in a lot of different mediums, 3D printing. And because they're a past grantee, they will understand things from the grantee side of things as a juror. So I think that helps them as a juror, but also everybody who applies as well. Megan Lee is our second juror. She's an artist that will be exhibiting at BICA in spring of 2027, I believe. She's based in New York. If I'm saying anything wrong, let me know. And then our other 2 jurors, we have Julio, who is from San Francisco. He is our Andy Warhol Foundation juror. So he runs a program similar to the Generator Fund in San Francisco. And yes, if you want to read their full bios, they are on our website. And our 4th and final juror is Zach Bowler, who is, I forget the exact title, but he works at the AKG, curator of special projects, I believe. So those are our jurors for this cycle. And what they are looking for is projects that are firmly rooted in visual art. If you show any shred of doubt that your project is not visual art, they will pick up on it. Make sure that it's visual art. They want to see projects that are innovative and original. If it's something that if it's a practice that you're already doing, maybe take a risk, try something new so that it's not just funding the work that you're already doing. Publicly accessible, you have to have a publicly accessible component that's free to the public in Erie or Niagara County. This can be a one-night event. This can be an exhibition with open gallery hours. This can be a free publication that you put out for anybody to take, but it has to have something for the public. and grounded in purpose. Projects that feel very specific and that have clear ideas and you have a reason why you want to do them. Jurors look for that. And then for potential grants in particular, they are also looking for collaborative thinking and long-term potential. They want to see something durable that is going to last beyond the grant period. So especially with potential grants, thinking about how you're going to continue that. If you are making any income, that's totally okay. If that's going to help continue on. But yeah, we really want to see that those potential projects go as far as possible and reach as wide as possible. So now we'll get into the application, which has the image from last year, but that's okay. You can flip to the next slide. The first section in the application is just your basic information. So we're going to need your email. We communicate, all communication happens through email on submittable. So make sure you check your spam and make sure that we're not in spam. Next is, we've got, pronouns, your website if you want. Your mailing address is another important thing because this tells us that you're in Erie or Niagara County. Address has to be in Erie or Niagara County to be eligible. The next section of the application. That's okay. The next section of the application is the basics of your project. So something new that we added this year is artistic context. This is because jurors were finding they wanted a little bit more information about the artists themselves and any collaborators, and trying to shove that all into the project description is too much. So there's a separate box for it. It's not more work, it's just breaking it up. So this is a great place to put bio information, why you're like why who you are connects to this project. Then we have title and tagline. Your tagline is important. It is a simple, effective one-sentence statement to describe your project. So some good examples of this are Cornelia Magazine, a visual arts review for Western New York and Southern Ontario. It clearly describes what Cornelia is in one sentence, and you don't have any questions about that. So something like that to describe your project is really important for it's important to the jurors, but it's also important for when we promote your projects as well. Your description. This is the bulk and the most important part of your application because it's about what you want to do. There's a lot of important things that you should include in here. Yes, it is. I'm just hoping that I can pull it up because it's hard for me to see as well. So very practical things to include in your project description are going to be where the project will take place and how it will be accessed by the public. If you don't have a confirmed location, that's okay, but let us know that you've thought about it and that maybe you might have reached out to someone if you've gone that far, but we understand that you can't have anything for certain with a proposed project that you don't know you have funding for, but just let us know that you've actually thought about it is really important. Timeline with key milestones. It's always good to let us know that you know how to stay on track and all the processes and steps have been thought through in your project. Any collaborators and people involved, if they're not confirmed, put them in. Even if they're not confirmed, put them in there, but maybe have a conversation with them before you put them in, especially if you say something like, oh, I want to do this at the AKG, and we have a juror from the AKG who has not heard anything about your project. That will definitely that will not help you. That will not help you at all. So reach out to people, tell them that you're applying, that it's just an idea, and just to have that line of communication open. You're going to want to address who your audience is and how you'll reach them. This is really important for the public aspect part. And Actually, we have moved this brief biographical information to artistic context now. So put that in there. Don't put that in your project description. For the budget. So it's basically the same. If you've ever applied before or looked at our application, it's basically the same thing. We've made a few small changes. You still have to use our budget form to be eligible. If you do not use our budget form, your project is not eligible. We have some example budgets as well that I sent in the chat earlier, and I believe that there's some link directly in the application too, and as well as like the resources on our website if you scroll down. We've added this little box here, generator fund grant request. This is just so we know right off the bat how much money that you're requesting, and so it's clear for everybody who's going to be reading your application. Ideally, in this box would either be 5,000 or 10,000. We did fund 2 smaller projects last year, but it's at the full discretion of the jury and how they want to split up the money and what seems best for them. But it is recommended. I mean, don't fluff your budget to make it $5,000 if it's not a $5,000 project. But think about really all the things that you're going to need for a project, because you could probably easily fill up a $5,000 budget quickly if you think through all the steps. After that, you will upload your project budget right there. Can you go to the next slide? And these are the things that you will need to include in your budget. Number 1 is expenses. This is everything that you'll spend money on. Artist fees, keep them reasonable. We want to see you pay yourself and your collaborators especially. But if that is the biggest ticket line in your budget, that tells us that that's your biggest hurdle for the project. So we want to see you get paid, but that's not the main reason for the funding. Materials and supplies are always good. Space rental, printing, tech, transportation, any kind of expenses that you think that you will incur for your project. The second section is in-kind support. So this is really helpful if you're mentioning things in your project description that don't show up on your budget. So if you don't have to pay for your venue, or you're getting materials donated, or you're getting volunteer help, all of these things are really great to include in kind, because basically your budget should be a technical version of your project description. It should really include everything to show us that you've thought through all the aspects of the project. The third section is income. You're more than welcome to make money on this project. We would love to see that, especially with potential who want to keep continuing. So yeah, throw that in there if you're like selling a book or something, but just make sure that like if you're planning on producing a book and selling it, there still has to be a public component of that is free and accessible to all. This is what our budget looks like. This is an example budget from, I believe, 2023 of a Kinetic. This was GroupWorks budget. So you can see that they've listed generator rental, truck rental, and they have these prices, and then any explanations go in the notes. So they have their subtotal expenses at the bottom. That line will auto-generate based on the amounts that you put in each section. The more notes, the better. If you have an expense and it just says artist fee and it's a huge portion, but really it's artist fees for your collaborators too, like let us know. Put that in the notes. Give us some context for it. And then the other half of the budget is your in-kind and your income. So they receive donations for free promotion, installation for volunteer members, and a projector rental. So all of this is included in their budget because it's still expenses, but these are donated expenses. You're going to put the amount that you request in the top line of income. and that's going to tell us how much you need. We've also put that on the application, but it's put it there too. And if you're planning on, if say you may have another source of funding, you have a confirmed other grant, you're getting donations, anything like that, put it in the income. The only thing that I will say about that is if you are getting other grants for this same project, we really want the generator fund to be the main source of funding for the project. So if you're getting an additional $1,000 from a smaller grant, that's totally fine. If you are utilizing the generator fund's money as like a cherry on top for your $12,000 film budget, that's not going to fly. It can't be sorry. So yeah.
Last mile funding. This is supposed to cover the lion's share of your project, but it's not for like last mile funding on a gigantic, bigger project.
Yeah. Next slide. The next section is your work samples and CV. So we've done some reworking of this section as well. For work samples, you'll be able to upload your file. We've removed the work sample description, and you'll be able to type in the metadata, including title, year, medium, and description of the work for each file that you upload. If you want, you can also make a PDF with all the things that you want, but just keep in mind that jurors have 100 or more applications to review, and work samples are really important. They're going to spend time looking at your work samples, but not too long. I will say, as someone who's been a juror, video works are hard to watch when you're going through 100 applications. So if you do video works, short samples are great. And also another thing on work samples, the best work samples are ones that show your capacity to complete the project. So it doesn't have to be exactly, but like if you've hosted events before and you're applying for an event, events might be a great thing to show, but we understand that we're also asking you to take risks. So your work samples will not perfectly reflect your proposal. And CV. So if you don't know what a CV is, you can come to our next info session, which will be Saturday, September 5th here at BICA. And Nando will be leading a budget and CV workshop after the info session. The 3-minute total is an approximate time of how long the jurors will review your application, how long they will spend on your work samples. Because I say they'll spend probably 10 minutes, give or take, on applications, and they have to do a lot of reading as well. So they're only going to spend about 3-ish minutes approximately looking through work samples. So it's just a note so that you know what to expect. So we are here now at the virtual info session. You can also watch our last year's session if for any reason you want to. And our next one that I was just talking about is Saturday, September 5th here at BICA at 3:30 p.m. You don't need to register for that one. You can just show up. And after the info session, we'll have the budget and CV workshop. If you need any assistance with your budget or CV or just want to learn more or tips and tricks on how to make it the best you can. And along with our info sessions, we also offer office hours. You can meet with me. Before you book your office hours, please be sure that you have attended an in-person info session or were here at this one or watched online afterwards. You have a well-formed idea for a proposal and you've already started your application. I am not going to be much help if you come to me with absolutely nothing. I'm not going to come up with your idea for you. I'm here to answer questions, offer one-on-one assistance, answer specific questions pertaining to your application, and give you advice and feedback. So come to me with something and I'll be able to help you. Appointments are available on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays throughout August and September during gallery hours at BICA, and you can book those on the website. There's a link to book from there. We also offer group work time. So this is time for people to get together, work alongside other applicants and peers and BICA schoolers on their application. This is very informal. There's no one here telling you anything. It's just kind of people working parallel play, working on their applications together. So we have 2 dates for group work time this year, and that'll be Saturday, September 19th from 12 to 5 and Saturday, September 26th from 12 to 5. Here is overall timeline of Generator Fund Cycle 4. Our applications opened August 1st. We're at the virtual info session today, August 12th. Office hours will begin this Saturday, August 14th. We'll have that second info session at BICA September 5th. Group work time on the 19th and the 26th. Office hours will also end September 26th because applications close September 30th. And if you need office hours between those 4 days, your project probably is not ready. October, the jury will do their individual review. We'll get together and review late October, early November. Grantees will be announced early December. We'll have our Meet the Grantees gathering in January, and all projects should be completed or mostly completed by January 2028. So if anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Yeah, if you have a question, just feel free to unmute and call it out. I know we've answered some in the chat as well.
I have a question. If I'm doing a collaboration with another person who lives outside of this area,
That's fine.
that's fine.
Yep,
But
that's
that other
totally
person
fine.
is a collaborator.
Yep.
I
As
would
long as
say
the project takes place in Erie or Niagara County and you're okay with the payments being made to you instead of your collaborator, then that's totally fine.
Okay, and then in terms of work samples, are you interested in seeing the work samples of the collaborator as well as me?
Yes, that would be very good to be able to see both.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I see a question from Kit here.
Yeah. Would a visual/hybrid critical project be in scope for this grant? Some writing and viewing artists look for. Yes, Kit. That seems, as long as the focus is visual arts, it can be writing about visual arts. It just needs to be completely focused on visual arts. So I think what you're talking about there makes sense.
And just to add there too, like, again, for potential grants, things like magazines, podcasts, blogs, as long as visual art is that medium's focus.
Else?
So I asked about like a screening series or something like that. Um, so like if you wouldn't be able to charge an admission for the series if you were doing if that were awarded.
At least some of them would need to be, at least some part of them would need to be free. So yeah, there at least need to be some part of it that's publicly accessible. We've had other projects that have had ticket prices for some portions. So yeah, that can work.
Okay. Thanks.
the PowerPoint, the one from last year is already on the website. I will put the one from this year on the website as well. I believe if you go to the info tab and scroll to the bottom, there's a bunch of resources there.
Also, Kit has asked about work samples for writing. I would we've seen applications with writing in them before. Just try to, again, be like conscientious of how much you're asking someone to read. So if it's, pulling some paragraphs instead of the entire article, but absolutely feel free to include links. Sometimes a juror feels compelled to spend more time on something and really dig deep. So yeah.
And on writing sample too, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like jurors would probably appreciate seeing if it has been published, like PDF of that over just a docx of text too.
Also, I wouldn't link the samples. I would upload them directly to Submittable.
Yes. Yeah.
That's always the best bet. I know sometimes links are unavoidable, but anything you can upload directly to Submittable is always a better option for work samples.
Mm-hmm. Any final questions, or shall we wrap up with this?
I think I had all my questions answered. I'm not sure for everybody else, but I'll be very excited to join in on that CV and budget workshop that'll be happening in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine if you don't want to sit through an info session again, I would show up maybe 30 minutes later. So, right, Nando?
Good to know.
Yeah, and I do just want to be clear because this often comes up each year. Curriculum vitae, I think most people in this room know,
Yeah.
is a very particular kind of artist document that is not a resume. And so, yeah, we can talk about like if you've never done one, how to kind of like translate that information into a CV.
Well, we look forward to reading all of your applications, and you'll be able to find this as well as the slides on the website. And we've got lots of other ways to get in touch with us if you have further questions. So we'll leave you there.
One last thing, though, actually, is to in addition to the group work time, if you get your application in early, there is a good chance that we will be able to review it and offer feedback. So especially I would aim for like well before the deadline on that, by like mid-September at the latest. So yeah.
Great. Well, thanks everyone so much. Have a great night.
Good
You
luck.
too. Thank you.